Okay, so we have completed panel 1 and the setup for panel 2. And at this point here, what I have done is I have picked up all the loops on the edge of the column we created in the last video here. And I've got 3 lines left to pick loops up from at the end here on this. Now this is the start of panel number 2 is what we're working on. And you can see when I compare it to the hat here at the moment, I have now got my upward slope completely covered in Tunisian crochet. And I'm about to start into my downward slope on the hat here. But you may also notice that on the hat itself, there are more lines below the peaks than there were before, or there are more lines here now than we have on our hook. If we were to continue this as it is, it would just come straight out and you have a big hole, big triangular hole here in your work. So what we need to do is the opposite of the decreasing we were doing when we were working upwards. We need to add loops at the base as we're working. And the neatest way of doing that is to do what's called a make one in Tunisian crochet. There's a few different ways of doing this. You can either like shove your hook between, you can see those little gaps there. You can either pop your hook in like so, just straight through the gap right there, the big yawning hole, yarn over and draw a loop up. But to be honest with you, I find that really, really obvious, and it's kind of clear that you've created a hole. By doing that, you've pulled this out and it creates a bit of a hole in your work. So what I actually like to do is a little sneaky trick that I have here. So I'm going to pick up the loops in all the remaining lines all the way down. We're done with our decreasing at the base because we're not looking to reduce the number of stitches. We're looking to make it bigger. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the column that I've completed previously. And you see my nail there is right on top of the hole at the base of that column. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to go back into that hole again one more time, yarn over and draw up an extra loop. Now that is one loop more than we had available to us previously. I've gone into the previous column's hole, so it's going to be attached to the fabric I have made, but I still need to create the base for this particular column. So I'm still going to go into the very next V along, which is this little lady here. Yarn over and draw through. So now you may notice this number 3 loop here is absolutely attached to a line on your fabric. Number 2 loop here, this one here in the middle, isn't, but it will be a line going forward. And that's the loop in our base as usual. So if I were to go yarn over through 2, the whole way back up from this point, I won't go all the way back up. I know you guys know what you're doing. I'll go up a little bit just to give you a bit of a clear view of it. Yeah, okay, that feels like enough. Let's have a look at what we have here now. On this, that's the last legit loop you have created. And into the base of your work, you have this little diagonal guy here, who's your make one. And when you do the very next column along, you're going to be picking up loops in all the lines and in this dude here, and then creating another make one for the next column along. And those little diagonals here are what make the extra stitches on your work, and it's what turns an upward slope into a downward slope. And you can see on your fabric here, these starting off lines are my make ones on my sample hat, and they add all this extra beautiful fabric into the gap that would otherwise be a yawning hole in your fabric. So there you go. That's how you create a make one at the base of a piece of crochet like this Tunisian crochet hat called Sunny. If you are interested in the pattern itself, you will find a link in the description below, as well as a link to the yarn I used, which is Dusty Dimples Dusty Sock in colorway Foxy. It's extremely smooth, extremely soft, and it's a lovely, lovely sock weight yarn. So I suggest you do have a look at her website because there's some beautiful stuff on there. You'll also find, of course, a thank you wall for all of my Patreon supporters who I would not be able to do this job without. And I do hope that you decide to join them. There's lots of lovely gifts and discounts on there as well. And you'll find a link to my Patreon page in the description as well. Thank you so much for watching. I do hope you enjoy the pattern itself.